The skies are still holding their secrets. They always have. In the past, we would have strange lights dancing above us for decades and generations, objects that shouldn't be there, moving in ways they should not move. We called them flying saucers or UFOs. Now we have drones. But something else, I think, is flying with these drones. Over New Jersey, over New York, Pennsylvania, they keep coming night after night. It's like they're silent watchers over our military bases, over cities, over quiet towns. Government says there's nothing to worry about, just drones, they say. But their words do not match what people are seeing. We've been here before. We've been here before many times. In the Hudson Valley, I'm going to talk about that a little later. Decades ago, there were big triangles and boomerangs in the sky with little planes flying around to confuse us. Now we have drones. But are they all just drones? I'm not convinced that they're all drones. This story is not new. Only the details seem to change. Something is up there, something that doesn't follow our rules, doesn't follow our no-fly zones. That means nothing to them. They just keep coming. We have a tale of mystery in our time, of things we cannot explain, of things flying where they shouldn't fly, of governments being silent, and of the public just wondering. It's a story as old as the skies, but it's playing out right now over our heads. So these mystery drones, we've been dealing with them for about 6 weeks, month and a half, at least this wave of them. We've had many, many sightings, countless. I don't know how many we can say there have been sightings of these things, drones, mystery objects across several states in the northeastern U.S., particularly New Jersey. Started around mid-November. They have continued to this day. I'm speaking here the day after Christmas, still going. Witnesses have said some of these are as large as small cars, different sizes, mostly flying at night, some of them in the daytime. Observed near sensitive locations, including military installations, including nuclear facilities. The frequency and the widespread nature of these sightings have prompted investigations by multiple federal agencies. We got FBI, Department of Homeland Security, Federal Aviation Administration, and that is not all of them. Despite all of those investigations, despite deploying advanced detection technology, so they tell us, the federal authorities are still maintaining that most of these sightings are just misidentifications of ordinary aircraft or stars or legally operated drones. They have consistently stated that there is no national security threat involved with any of these objects. And it's just really interesting. It just highlights some of the challenges that we live in today. I mean, we do have a proliferation of drone technology. We absolutely do. We do have the public's heightened awareness of UAP, or unidentified aerial phenomena. So that is part of it. And there's always the reality that when people will see unusual things in the sky, frequently they are conventionally explained. I mean, that's been the case with most of what we would call UFO sightings. Yes, we all understand that. Most are explainable, some are not. And we're seeing something similar playing out here with these so-called mystery drones. So there's a lot of confusion. We have a lot of complexities of like, how do government agencies address and communicate what they are doing relating to this type of phenomena that we don't have an explanation for. It's very, very interesting. Now, one thing that is definitely true about these drones is that there is some connection to the military. And I'm hoping, and I do believe that at some point, researchers are going to be able to compile all of the apparent military encounters that have occurred. But there's a few that I've been able to dig up. You have a mention of F-16 jets being involved in at least one incident, specifically a video reportedly showing an object that was described as a drone zooming away from an F-16 jet. You have multiple reports indicating that these objects were seen near or over military installations that would suggest potential military involvement or military response. You have the deployment of additional detection and tracking systems to military facilities. We've heard about Picatinny Arsenal and the Naval Weapons Station Earl being mentioned. So that implies also an kind of ongoing military engagement with this phenomenon. There have been references also to drone sightings at various Air Force bases. Are they confirmed? I'm not sure if they've been confirmed. They seem true, but sometimes there have been denials. One of them included Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. There was definitely one seen over Ramstein Air Base in Germany. And we've had, of course, these military bases in the United Kingdom also encountering these types of drones. So there's definitely a military connection at a variety of bases. There have been reports mentioning that military personnel are actively monitoring these objects. So while we're not getting explicit information that fighter jets are being scrambled in every instance, it is clear that we're getting a number of claims of military encounters and responses to these drone sightings that are currently happening. So on top of that, there are unusual qualities to these so-called drones. You have witnesses describing the objects being as large as small cars. I mentioned that previously. We've heard about this a lot, but that is not typical for conventional drones. It's not impossible, but it is not normal. That's very large. There are reports of these objects flying in very challenging weather conditions, including strong winds that would normally ground smaller hobbyist types of drones. And I mentioned the one object zooming away from an F-16. That does suggest capabilities beyond conventional drones for sure. You also have reports indicating the extended hovering, often for hours over sensitive bases. That is an unusual feature for at least commercial drones. Not necessarily impossible. Yes, drone technology is going through lots of upgrades these days, but nonetheless, that seems highly unusual, the ability to hover for such a long period of time. We have heard of these objects being able to evade known interdiction technologies for drones. And we also have mention of these objects flying in formations, some of them very complex. And we've seen videos. I mean, some of them are just incredible, of large numbers of these lights in maneuvering, very intricate formation, maneuvering in the skies. That is not typical for drone operations either. So this doesn't prove that these are all alien craft, but it does indicate that if these are drones, they're very unusual, highly sophisticated. They are not normal. This is not normal behavior. It is quite extraordinary. So it's more in line with historical UFO reports than what we might think of as typical drone activity. Now, there are no sightings, at least that I've come across, of people saying that they've encountered alien beings in connection with these drones. So we're not getting that. And you would get some of that in some of the past UFO sighting waves that have occurred throughout history. And we're not, at least I'm not aware of any of that. So no close encounters associated with these mystery drones, that type of thing. So there is that. But we do have some unusual, things going on with these drones. There's a lot of public anger. There's not a lot of, there's not many answers. Hearing quote after quote and clip after clip of angry New Jersey assemblymen and members of the state assembly and the state legislature and so on, showing a lot of anger and frustration over the lack of answers that they are getting from federal authorities. You have various mayors and state senators and all of that just saying the federal government is not being transparent with us. And it is very strange. I mean, we've had multiple briefings from the Pentagon. I'll get to them in just a second. There are no answers other than this is just ordinary commercial drone activity, nothing to get excited about. Seems a little odd. The FBI actually said that they've gotten over 5,000 tips about drone sightings. What they actually then said is that only a tiny fraction, less than 100, were deemed worthy of investigation. I could imagine that a lot of the tips are probably nothing to get excited about, but literally just less than 100 out of 5,000. Well, then you have to assume how many resources does the FBI even have to investigate these? Probably not that much, frankly. You have the federal government implementing temporary drone bans over parts of New Jersey and New York until the middle of January, at least, of 2025. They have deployed drone detection equipment to various areas. None of this has made a difference so far. The drones are still flying. Doesn't matter if there's a drone ban, they're still doing their thing. And they don't seem to have been able to detect or identify these, at least not for the public. So very, very interesting. Chuck Schumer, Senator of New York, did propose a bill to enable local authorities to conduct drone detection and coordinate with federal agencies a little bit better. That was blocked by Senator Rand Paul. Those two guys hate each other. No surprise there. And I'm not really sure what I think about Schumer's legislation. I haven't read it in detail, so I'm not able to comment on it. Part of me thinks this is probably classic government overreach, but I would like to know what any of you think about it. If you've read the legislation, what your thoughts are about that. Put your comments below and I will check them out. An interesting element of these drones is whether or not they are coming from over the ocean or from under the ocean. This is something I'm particularly interested in. I've just been studying for the last 3 years USOs, unidentified submerged objects, and we're hearing a few hints, claims. What are they of these objects? Coming out of the ocean, out of the Atlantic Ocean, coming from over the Atlantic Ocean. It's not really clear to me. There was that one report supposedly from a police officer who saw 50 drones emerging from the ocean and dispersing in various directions upon reaching the shoreline. We also do have the claim, this probably is true, I'm guessing, that the Coast Guard, after being alerted, reportedly observed 13 drones following one of their boats. But some of those drones flying at an altitude of about 300 feet, it's very low, and having a wingspan of approximately 8 feet. Pretty specific, clear description, it seems to me. One interesting thing that I just was really happy to see, YouTuber, gentleman named CJ Faison. I caught his video. He did his own independent investigation. I want to give him some props here. Guy chartered a boat to explore the area off the New Jersey coast. During his expedition, what he said is that he and the boat's captain saw multiple drones in a grid-like pattern heading towards the shore, which they believe were not typical aircraft. So that whole thing, I guess, was aimed to gather more evidence of the oceanic origin. Although, I mean, I think he was basically saying it's not easy to get clear footage. These things are elusive, and the technology we have is not perfect in capturing it. Nonetheless, I'm going to give him some props. Well done. What we do need as many people as possible out there, I think, trying to record this. And then we come to the Pentagon. So this is General Pat Ryder, yet again, another press conference where he's talking about the drones. This whole thing is becoming a debacle, really. So Ryder's up there. He's armed with a straight face, dash of bureaucratic panache. I mean, these guys in the Pentagon, man, they are just a walking PowerPoint presentation. So he's telling the nation that these mysterious drone swarms buzzing New Jersey are not, in fact, a sign of impending doom. These flying nuisances are simply misunderstood hobbyists and overzealous delivery services with the occasional star, masquerading as a UFO. He did mention there are about 8,500 drones flitting about daily, like fireflies on caffeine, I guess. He did insist there's nothing to see here, folks. The DoD, in its infinite wisdom, has bestowed upon military bases the power of drone detection, because apparently that wasn't a priority before. There were some journalists in the press conference who are a little bit skeptical of the Pentagon's ability to actually uh, A, follow this and get to the bottom of it, and B, tell the truth. So there were some journalists who said, hey, how come there were these classified briefings if all we're talking about are glorified hobbyist toys? Which was a pretty good question. Ryder expertly dodged that one. He did a really good job at kind of leaving us to ponder government semantics. I mean, these people, I think partly they get their job because they're able to say absolutely nothing in as many words as possible. As far as public skepticism goes, well, he did suggest that we all need to embrace the new reality, our new buzzing overlords as a legal, maybe annoying, but legal part of modern life. In other words, nothing to see here, just sleep tight, America. The lights in the sky is probably just Amazon's latest attempt to, I don't know, optimize your toilet paper delivery. So that was the Pentagon briefing, a whole lot of nothing there. We also are getting a lot of talk about foreign adversaries being responsible for the drone sighting. Some of these people, I listened to them, I think they're going to give themselves a stroke. One of them was a representative named Jeff Van Drew. I listened to this guy. I mean, total histrionics here, suggesting that Iran has a mothership off the East Coast that is releasing drones toward the United States. Are you kidding me, man? Who takes this guy seriously? This is an absolute joke. China, I'm hearing. Russia, I'm hearing. There's one representative said there's a non-trivial chance. I love when people say non-trivial, like that they're trying to sound like they really know what they're talking about. A non-trivial chance that China could be involved. Okay, well, if it's more than 0.0001%, I guess you could say sure. Realistically, no, it's not realistic whatsoever. Certainly not Iran. This is a joke. Russia and China. Look, Trump has been elected. He is waiting in the wings. The Russians and Chinese have not gotten along with Joe Biden. That is absolutely the fact. They probably won't get along much better with Donald Trump, to be honest about it. But you can definitely see, I mean, if you follow the diplomatic back and forths with Russia and with China and the United States, you can see that the Russians are at least waiting. They're waiting to see if they can deal with Trump. They want to see if that's possible. They're not going to do anything so reckless as to fly drones literally a couple hundred feet over American cities and military bases in the middle of the night after night, while the whole world is watching. They're not that stupid. Neither are the Chinese, to say nothing of the capability of actually doing this. They're not omnipotent. They don't have this all-knowing capability of sending their drones over massive parts of the United States. And yet you get these local political people basically, I mean, just working up their blood pressure, talking in front of the cameras as if that's really what we're dealing with. It's really, in my view, it's nothing other than a completely unveiled attempt to just bolster whatever private agenda that they have. Meanwhile, you do have the White House and DHS and any of the other federal agencies stating that they have no evidence of foreign involvement or any adversaries related to this. I mean, if they were to say that they thought that there were, that would be a extremely reckless and dangerous statement to make, but also a very unrealistic one, and one that would be very difficult for the world to believe. That's the reality of it. I always love how the media will quote some anonymous intelligence source. They do this all the time. This is the way the American media works. Anonymous sources suggesting that the drones might be Russian. Well, none of this has been, there's not a shred of indication that that is what we're looking at. There was a claim that one of these drones looked like an apparent Russian drone. We're going to need to do a little bit better than that to make an actual case that we're dealing with this. When you go into the history of UFO sightings, I'm going to give you a nice little list in just a moment of waves of sightings. We do not have a single, not one verified, credible example in history of the Russians, whether the Soviet Union or Russia or any other nation, being responsible for UFO sightings over American facilities. Many years ago, there was a claim by the then official historian of the CIA, a man named Gerald K. Haynes, back around 1997, who did argue that many of the sightings of the 1950s were actually of the U-2 spy plane. He actually said more than half of UFO sightings in the 1950s were of the U-2 spy plane. It's an absolutely laughable, absurd claim that the media then and today continue to take seriously. It's an absolute joke. It's an absolute joke. The U-2, for the record, flew at 80,000 feet straight as a string, did not hover, did not drop down, did not maneuver. The U-2 was not causing UFO sightings. And in fact, in his study from 97, Haynes did not indicate a single example of a UFO sighting that was attributable to a U-2 spy plane. So he just threw that out there, and the media just kind of ate it up. There are, in reality, no examples of any foreign nation being responsible for UFO sightings over U.S. airspace. Now, I want to just show you a couple of slides I put together here of just some historical examples of UFO waves. We can call them that. Sometimes they call them flaps or waves. All that means is you have a large number of sightings in a specific geographic area at a certain time. So that would be called a wave or a flap. And we've had a few of them over time, and I've listed some here. Back in 1946 over Europe, there were these so-called ghost rockets. We had the flying saucer wave in 1947, green fireballs in the American Southwest in 1948, and so on. Some of these were really quite intense. Most of them, not all, but most of them got a fair amount of media attention at the time. And here we are. I've got one of these highlighted in yellow, and that is the Hudson Valley in lower New York State. It's a really interesting one. This is 40 years ago when essentially the same part of the country or a similar part of the country was dealing with an extended multi-year long wave of really quite fascinating sightings of low-flying, silent objects hovering over highways, shining bright lights down onto the ground, and then gliding away, sometimes very slowly, sometimes quickly. By the mid-1980s, you had witnesses numbering in the thousands reporting this, covering the entire full sociological spectrum. What's particularly suspicious about that wave of sightings is that in the midst of all of the reports of these large boomerang and triangular objects, there were also quite a few, or some, confirmed cases of pilots flying small ultralight aircraft in close formation. Would have been totally illegal to do so, but there were some reports of this. So they're called microlight aircraft or ultralight aircraft. And that just added another layer of confusion to the overall phenomenon. What it really essentially did, though, was that someone who would claim to have seen a triangle or a boomerang, they would now be dismissed because people would say, oh, no, that was confirmed to be the ultralight aircraft flyers in formation. That's all you saw. And we're hearing, I'm hearing a lot of this with the drones today. That is, some of these so-called drone sightings don't appear to be of drones. They are orbs, or there are some other kind of craft that seems to be beyond what ordinary drones are. Is it the case that you've got people putting ordinary drones up there to confuse the matter? Totally possible. It happened 40 years ago. It could definitely happen today. So what I would say is that the sightings of the past, those waves of sightings, whether they're from the ghost rockets of 1946 right up until, through the 21st century, where we just have thousands of these sightings reported every year to places like MUFON or the National UFO Reporting Center, the serious waves of sightings continue to remain unexplained. To this day, we don't really have a good explanation of those Hudson Valley sightings from 40 years ago. Everyone's got a theory. There are some theories that state that these were some kind of black budget or advanced technology. It's not impossible that some of that might be the case. But again, those were very, very unusual sightings And we're 40 years later, and we still don't really know what those craft could have been. To say nothing of in 1975, there was a series of sightings of over U.S. military bases and into Canadian territory as well. Those are also uh, totally unexplained and very baffling. So that is what we, dealing with, something that is in a historical context. These drones, these UFOs, whatever they were, uh, they are over our cities, they're over our farms, they're over our military bases. But these so-called drones are not the first. We've had this phenomenon for decades and generations in which strange objects will haunt our skies that have defied explanation and that have outflown our fastest jets in an era years ago when there were no drones. They were just unknowns. And now we have drones, real drones. We have drone toys, we have drones as tools, drones as equipment. But among those drones, it looks like something else also is flying, something that should not be there. Government says it's nothing, all explained, but those words completely ring hollow. They banned the drones in parts of New York and in New Jersey. The objects still keep coming. Whatever they are, they do not obey our laws. They don't follow our rules. We've seen this all before. We've seen the secrecy. We've seen the denial. We've seen the half-truths. But the sky doesn't lie. Something's up there, something beyond our official understanding. The mystery is still there. The drones, if that's what they are, they're continuing to fly. And we keep watching. We keep waiting for answers that may never come, or they may come. There's a lot of people out there doing a lot of good work. And I, for one, remain hopeful that we're going to get some answers on this. I don't think they're going to come from our government, though. I don't think that's going to happen. But we ourselves may be able to get something going on here. I'll be back probably with more on this in the future. Meanwhile, I'd like to know your thoughts about what you think is going on here. Put your comments down below. I'll read them. And I'll be back again in the future. In the meantime, let's all keep fighting the good fight. Catch you later.